John Tyler's ascension to the presidency alienated many in the Whig Party, as they felt he should still be considered the vice president, while others believed that Tyler should instead be called the acting president. However, John Tyler was having none of that and demanded to be referred to as the president, even going so far as to refuse to open or acknowledge letters that addressed him as anything but president. This soon led to his detractors calling the 10th president as His Excellency. However, things would get much worse for Tyler when it came to his attempts at governing. Following the 1840 election, Henry Clay attempted to make himself the real power behind the Harrison administration when it came to policies, but old Tippecanoe wasn't too keen on that idea. So when Harrison died and Tyler suddenly became president, Clay once again believed he could be the shadow president of this new administration and pass his policies into law. But as a former Democrat from Virginia who not only championed states' rights but also supported policies of limited government and opposing a central banking system, then it's probably not too shocking to hear that President Tyler's leadership clashed with Henry Clay's ambitions. When it came time to pass bills that would revive the national bank, Tyler refused to support them. This flew in the face of not only the Whigs in Congress but also Henry Clay, who in response decided to undermine the president's proposed fiscal policy known as the Exchequer Plan. By September of 1841, members of the administration began handing in their resignations with the supposed aim of forcing Tyler to step down as president in order to get someone who was loyal to Clay into that position. When Tyler refused to resign from office, the Whigs soon expelled him from the party, leaving the president very few allies, outside of Daniel Webster, the only member of the cabinet that didn't resign their post. Further problems arose when it came to dealing with the tariff issue. At first, both Tyler and the Whigs managed to agree on a compromise with the Distribution Act of 1841, which would raise tariff prices to 20%. However, when the economy continued to worsen, Tyler proposed ideas that went against not only the Distribution Act, but also the Tariff of 1833, which allocated funds to southern states following the nullification crisis. When the Whigs refused to go along with Tyler's plans to append their agreed-upon proposals, Tyler vetoed the bill as well as another bill that would extend the 1833 tariff. If any bridges between John Tyler and the Whigs were burnt before the tariff issue, those bridges were effectively destroyed by the time Tyler vetoed the bills, which nearly led to him being the first president to face impeachment. Disliked by both the Whigs and Democrats, John Tyler attempted to make a run for re-election as an independent in the 1844 election, with his biggest focus being on the annexation of Texas into the U.S. Meanwhile, Henry Clay had resigned from his position as senator from Kentucky in 1842 as the Great Compromiser was looking to make another run for the presidency in 1844. With John Tyler being damaged goods politically and Daniel Webster's chances seemingly unlikely due to his connections with the Tyler administration, Henry Clay was finally in a position to capture the office that's eluded him for so long. Unfortunately for Clay, the issue of Texas annexation became the big talking point going into the next general election. Despite being nicknamed the Great Compromiser, Clay was unable to find a solution that would appeal to both the southern and northern wings of his party. Northerners feared that adding Texas would increase the South's influence, as Texas would most certainly become a slave state, thus expanding the practice of slavery in America. While Clay was always going to secure his party's nomination in 1844, the Democrats were struggling to find their candidate going into the convention. At first it appeared that Martin Van Buren would be the one to win, but after he decided to go against annexation due to the likelihood he would lose New York, which was both an anti-slavery state and had a lot of electoral votes that were needed to win, Van Buren's chances began to dwindle. While other Democrats vied for their party's nomination, it was former Speaker of the House turned dark horse candidate James K. Polk who won the nomination. Clay's attempts at downplaying Texas annexation and promoting his policies for the American system once again soured his chances to win, and things certainly weren't helped when John Tyler dropped out of the race and endorsed Polk to his support of Manifest Destiny. This was the belief that America should expand its influence from sea to shining sea by acquiring new territories, and with Polk in favor of not only adding Texas but also bringing in the Oregon territories as a free state, made it much easier for Polk to win. Although it was a tight race, James Polk won just enough electoral votes to become America's 11th president. Polk's desire to acquire Texas would see the U.S. engage in a war with Mexico, and some in the Whig Party were against this. Future President and Whig Representative Abraham Lincoln went so far as to question James Polk's assertions that Mexican forces shed American blood on American soil. Regardless, Polk's calculated scheming into a war with Mexico would soon pay off, as U.S. forces battled the Mexican army in what is known as the Mexican-American War. Not only did America win the war with Mexico, but they also acquired the areas of Texas, California, and other bits of land that would eventually become New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and Nevada through a series of treaties. By 1848, James Polk was set to honor his promise to serve a single term as president, and with no clear frontrunner for the Democrats or Whigs in terms of presidential candidates, The next general election would be an interesting one for both parties.